We're going to go into our Rearview segment presented by BF Goodrich Tires, which is your first event back after all of this, which was the Maui Pro and your round of 16 heat against Lakey Peterson.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the first one we've done in a while. And this was the first event you've done in a while. This was the Maui Pro 2019. What was it like making the decision to say, okay, I'm going to come and do this event?
It was a lot of work went into it. Like, it was physically where I was at in the next step of my recovery. Like, and a part of it was exposing me again to my normal life, essentially. And yeah, it was kind of not too hard because I was like, yes, I'm back, I'm normal, except I wasn't. And it's pretty evident, but yeah.
So walk us through this wave and your approach.
My approach was, I actually don't remember, which is telling you a lot about the space that I was in. But it looks pretty straightforward. Like, that was 2 turns. And I think a lot of it was, that was a brand new board and equipment. It's also a new body shape, essentially. Like, that, when I watched that, I'm like, you're skinny. You're really skinny. So it's so much adjusting to new in that situation. Yeah, I think there was a lot. I think that's the first day we competed as well. And yeah.
And you're riding John Peisel surfboards at this event. What was it like? I mean, even for surfers that aren't going through significant like recovery, mentally and physically, like changing surfboards is a huge part of like your career, and it could have huge effects one way or the other. So how did that come about for you in 2019?
Well, essentially it came about just because how small I was.
Right.
And I was really struggling with adjusting to my new weight, and also as someone that wanted to expand their surfing as well and explore this new weight, had a bit of an opportunity. And Matt was incredible. Matt Biolos was incredible in understanding. I was like, look, I'm going to try a few different boards just because where I'm at physically. And when I jumped on John's boards, he'd kind of seen how small I was. And we randomly ran into each other and had a brief chat. And he was like, look, you can try them, but, I'm not going to put any decals on them. Just go have fun and ride them. He's like, Matt's got you covered. He always has. You guys have had 8 years together. Incredible. And he was really respectful. And it's like, as long as, Matt knows that I'm shaping boards, but that you've asked me and I haven't just been like, oh, I'm going to give you boards. It was one of the most respectful like transitions that I've been a part of. And yeah, essentially it just came from how small I was though. Yeah.
And how much time before this event actually happened did you make the decision to, all right, I'm going to do Maui. Like, I'm committed to it. Like, physically and mentally, I am where I am. Was it a month before the event? Was it a week before the event?
I think it was August, maybe September.
Right.
But between now and then, what I had to do was a lot. Like, I had to get on a plane. So went to Bell's, did a session at Bell's. That was my first trip away in months. Then I had to get on a plane and actually go to Hawaii on a small swell beforehand to see how I would cope.
Right.
Along with, constantly doing neuro rehab, still heavily in trauma in the sense of psychologically. I was still surviving every day. I just had more of an understanding of why and what and how and the way forward and how to get out of where I was. So the process between that and actually arriving was full on. And then, 1 minute. Jetson! Stop it. Go on. In the bed. Damn, that's in the review. Anyway, that's the dog.
That might be the best part of the rear view yet. The best.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was still heavily traumatized. And very much a deer in headlights.
Well, and we have Lakey on this wave, and Lakey at this point in the event, she's not only in the hunt for the world title, she's also in the hunt for an Olympic qualifying spot. So she had specific goals for the event. You mentioned, you using this event as another step towards recovery. Did you have any specific performance goals or anything that you were going into the event with, or were you just kind of like, let's just see how it goes?
Yeah, very much just let's see. This is my next step in recovery. I'm not back. Right. I'm not performing at my best. This is not me saying that I'm back at all. This is literally me ticking a box that I've been told I have to do. Right. And knowing that, and also, knowing the position that Lakey was in, like I'm essentially just a nobody in the sense of in that title race. Like I'm, got no stakes in the game. I just there to kind of survive and do my recovery. And, at this point for her, like she's got, Olympic medals on the line, Olympic team showing and also a world title. And she was sitting in a really good spot for that title.
And even in this heat, we're dealing with Honolulu Bay. It's a serious wave. It's a high performance wave. You're surfing at a very high level. Was this, in this heat specifically, was this the best you'd surfed since the recovery, or were you? I guess my question is, were you surprised at how well your body and the boards and everything were performing, or were you prepared to perform this well?
Look, it's one of those things where that was never in question in the sense of, could I do this to the same level? It was almost to an extent like I could probably do it better, right. Which is strange. And I don't know how I got into that position, but that was really never the question. And one of those things that I remember my partner at the time was like, this is not you back, all right? Like, I had to slow down, and I was also very vocal on that. Right. Because my normal life still was really, really intense. And so when it came to, I think that was one of the big frustrations, was everyone's like, you're ripping, it's the best I've ever seen you surf, like, you've never looked better. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but have you seen the size of my legs? They're sticks. I don't have stick legs. Like, I've always had tree trunks. My body's always been really filled in. So much had to happen between now and the next conversation. But yeah, it wasn't really in doubt, and almost I kind of, my surfing wise, I'm in auto mode there. Like, that's not really front brain thinking. I was delayed. I was a little bit slow on my reactions. A lot of it was kind of just automatic in the sense of competitive wise. Like, I was just doing what I'd done for 20 years.
Well, it's so funny because I was going to bring up that exact point, because you mentioned that earlier, even when we talked about you being 14 and you're like, no, I knew I could win the event, like from a physical and like talent and approach standpoint, it almost feels like those are table stakes for you. You're like, no, I'm here because I know I can win. And all the other stuff that comes around it is, at least throughout this conversation, it sounds like how you put together a season, or how you put together a goal-oriented year, right? Do you think other surfers on the CT, both men and women, are the same way? Do you think all CT surfers turn up and think like, no, my surfing's not the problem. I can win this event, no problem. Because I don't think they do.
That's a good question.
Go on, name some names.
Okay, I honestly don't not understand why Steph doesn't think she will win every event.
Right.
I've never understood how with 7 world titles, her ability, her talent, her competitive drive, the competitor that she is, how, it sometimes feel like it's still variable on results. Right. Same with Carissa. Same with a lot of athletes, men and women. I've never understood it.
But do you think they they can't win, or do you think they go into an event and they think like, oh, there's some gaps in my surfing, or is it just sort of like results are results?
I don't know. I think that would be a really good breakdown of different things. Of like, all right, how much do you put value in results, or how much do you put performance there, or where do you actually put your value, and what is actually relevant in that value, and are you missing the point? And I guess for me is I don't question my ability and my competency. I'm like, I've trained for this my entire life. Right. I am in this position because I clearly deserve to be here. And not only because I'm talented enough, but I've also worked my ass off to be here. Mm-hmm. I'm a competitor of the game. I love it. I love analytics. I love the art. I love the collaboration side of it. I love having a coach that pushes me in a way where I don't have to question what I'm good at. And he's not surprised that I, generally just go, you know what? Yeah, I am good at this. And so I should be. Right. I'm not gonna show up and be like, whoever or whatever. I just, like, if someone says, oh, you're really good at that, I more than likely would say, yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. Because that's the truth. I'm a professional. Like, if anyone else in any other job, if you did it for 20 years and in 20 years time, you're not going, look, I'm competent at the basics, you're in the wrong job. And that's just how I see it. And so when it comes to, I never understand why people question themselves when it comes to their competency level. And
I guess that's true. I mean, it's hard for me as a civilian surfer to wrap my head around that, right? Because there's so many variables. And even like working with championship tour surfers on both the men's and women's side, like there are unquestionably surfers at the elite level that go into a season or they go into an event and they go, there are gaps in my surfing compared to other people on tour. Yeah. And there's every reason why, you and Steph and Carissa would not view the season that way. But for sure, there's other competitors that do. I mean, we were laughing about this the other day with like, even like magic surfboards, like shapers can like make these things within like a fraction of a difference of what the magic surfboard was. But maybe you had like one bite of rice too many the night before. Maybe the wind's a little bit wrong. Maybe you listened to the wrong song, and then you're like, "That board's terrible. Get it out of my face." And I'm like, "It's just there's so much."
I just think bring in the question of relevance. That like, and you be brutally honest. Like, it's not like there's not gaps in my surfing. Look at my backhand surfing to my frontside surfing. But I still have that same approach. I'm just honest with where I'm at. Like, right. I don't cover up that I have significant improvement on my backside surfing. And I just don't cover that up. And it's not like, it's just being honest with yourself as well. And I just think there's a different thing that we don't look at, and I don't think surfing's quite nailed it just yet, is like, what is actually relevant? Because you can get caught up in, waking up on the wrong side of the bed. You can get caught up in attitude, mentality, like where you're kick your toe or not kick your toe, or whether you forget something or not forget something. You can get so caught up in that, and it's BS. Like, I don't care what anyone says. It's a detail orientated jobs, and within that understanding is there is certain things that you have to do, and certain requirements you have to meet. And a certain level of control that you have, and there's a certain level that you don't. And those variables will play out result-wise however they show up. But when it comes to being in a position, I think now more than ever, I probably trust myself to intake information and go, okay, I have this, and this option. All right, I pick that option and I back that option because I've been given this information. Whether it's the right answer or not, you still have to keep taking in the rest of the, like, you can't get stuck in that. You have to keep taking in the next information and kind of continue to produce, all right, I've had that input, this is my decision. All right, I've had this input, this is now my course. This is how I navigate this.
You talked about how much you like the collaboration in surfing and whether it's with the Shapers, but you also mentioned Glenn Hall. How long have you been working with Glenn, and what kind of relationship and collaboration do you guys engage with? I mean, why don't we just take like this heat as an example? Like, what is your relationship with Glenn before the heat, during the heat, and after the heat that is so effective?
I think it's simple. And that's over the years, you know, I think we've been with Glenn for 4 years. And in this, it's to a point where, all right, like that, I can't get worried about that. And you watch me after it hit the water, because that frustrated me so bad, because that's me in my perfectionism world, where I don't like that at all. Like that, you know, you'll see I'll have multiple heats like that where I'll just have little bubbles and the anger in me just comes out. Like I just am furious because of that. I think that wave was a 10. That wave that just came through.
Yep.
There was one wave in this heat that was a 10-point ride. And
Lakey didn't
that
go,
one
right?
as well, and Lakey didn't go. Or maybe it was that one. Or it's one of those few waves, and I remember paddling out and looking at it and just going, oh, damn, like she's just converted a 10. And when she didn't go, I think the reason why I can know is because I stopped and turned and looked at Glenn. I like, is she seeing what I'm seeing, or am I tripping? Like, and that's one of those things is I remember that heat because I was like, that was in that heat specifically.
Yeah.
There's moments like that when you like, that's the conversion that athlete needed there.
Why wouldn't she have gone that way, especially at Honolulu? Yeah.
I don't quite know. That was always one of those questions that baffled me because it was a 10 every day of the week. Right. And in her position with a 7.6, and I had 2 6s, like all she needed was a 6 flat. And that put me essentially out of the game. And yeah, you don't like, there's all sorts of different factors in that situation, but if you're looking at the score, she had a 7.6 and a 4, and I had a 6.7 and a 4.5. And that was a turning moment. And I guess I don't know, I'm still baffled to this day as to why she didn't go.
Do you talk to your competitors in heats?
Steph, probably more so than most. But now we probably have the relationship of like, you know, we'll be at the start of a heat and I'm like, don't you dare. Like if I'm on the inside, I'm like, don't you dare run at me. Like, you're going to, and then she'll obviously make a run because that's her job. But most of the time it's just quiet. I talk to myself a lot. You know, like all of these moments, I'm like, I don't know, but it doesn't make sense really. I'm not sure if it would make sense if anyone's listening. Does
anyone else on tour talk? Who's the chattiest? Outside of Steph, but you guys have
I don't know. Actually, and it's pretty quiet. It's generally pretty quiet. Sometimes I think I might be.
That's right. If you look around the room and you're like, I don't know, then it's probably you.
Yeah, then it could be me. Like if I'm like, yeah, it depends. Like I'm pretty quiet, but then at the same time I'll be like, oh, I'll say something random because it just comes into my head. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny now, like when you talk to all the guys on tour, all the guys that have been on tour about like the mind games with Kelly, you know, and Kelly, who fucking knows what the truth is, but to this day will maintain like, no, I don't play mind games at all. And it's like, but there's enough of a rumor out there that if you talk to somebody in a heat or before a heat, they think you're messing with them. And also if you don't, like you're like, you didn't talk to me and it's messing with me. But the whole point is like everyone's off their game because of his reputation to mess with people.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's the reputation and the rumor and I think there's no relevance in it. I just like it gets to people, I know, but it's that part of that messaging of somehow we've been told that that's a really important thing, like mind games, really important to have nailed. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but how do you train for that? How do you prove that? Where's the data in that? What backing do you have? What evidence do you have? None? Okay, cool. Next.
It's just another one of those like sport narratives. It's probably more the media's into it than anything else. Everyone's like, oh yeah, he's like a psychological terrorist, and you're like, is he? I don't know.
Is he? Or is he just being a nice guy?
Yeah, and there's a lot of downtime in these heats. You just need to make up fucking meaning to be
sure, and that's what I mean. Like, I feel like you can kind of make up whatever you want, but when you really kind of like put all the pieces out, you're like, that actually doesn't matter.
So you know, we know how this heat goes. You knock Lakey out of the event and out of the title hunt, and I'm not sure if this heat knocked her out of Olympic contention, but it didn't help. And normally it would be, and you went on to finish runner-up in this event. Is that right? Yeah. So, and as you said, you didn't have any goals for this event. You just were this was another step towards your recovery. Under any other normal year, you would have had a couple months, and then we would have been on the Gold Coast for the start of the 2020 CT season. As it was, we're here in November, December, and we haven't competed yet for the championship tour level. Yeah. How do you view 2020 in hindsight, just in terms of the extended off season for your recovery, and maybe like how do you think it would have gone if it was just a normal season and we started on the Gold Coast?
Yeah. Look, what this extended break has given me is something that I don't think I can yet quantify, purely because, in a form of recovery, like for an example, what we're watching right now, the night before this event, I had a massive panic attack, as in combined with a PTSD episode and a flashback. So this is pretty, like, it's a state, and the reason why I bring it up is because this was expected for what I was doing at the time, and it sucked. All I wanted to do was stop. I didn't want but in the process of recovery, understanding that these moments are actually giving me helpful information is really important. So the night before this, up to midnight, and in and out of hot and cold showers to try and to bring me back from, Alex, where, she mentioned that she felt sick just because she ate some ridiculous food combination and also ate ice cream that had melted and then refroze and then melted and refroze again like multiple times.
What could have gone wrong?
What could have gone wrong? And then she's like, oh my God, I feel sick. And just that in and of itself, I was like, you can't say that. don't say that. And she's like, no, like, I'm just joking. Like, I don't actually, I'm like, you know, I'm like, I don't want to go to hospital. Like, I can't go to hospital. She's like, you're not going to go to hospital. You're fine. It wasn't what you ate. You're okay. Like, but it just, I can't calm down when I'm in that state. You know, at the time I didn't have the skills and it wasn't healthy enough to either. And so, yeah, we begin the process of putting me in and out of the shower, putting me under cold water, and bringing me back, and using different techniques to kind of calm my nervous system down, to calm my brain down, to go, hey, Tyler, you're not back in that space again. You're in Hawaii. You're okay. And so that was that kind of headspace, not headspace, recovery space. And so, you know, fast forward to Manly is when everyone saw me again. And that was like right before COVID. And COVID hit, and again, that's another virus. So that's super triggering.
Right.
And then, yeah, like, I guess I had another one there. And again, that was in public, and it was, again, I put myself in the car, and probably I had a few more skills to help me navigate that at the time. So the world shuts down, Tyler disappears and no longer has to continue to push and be a professional athlete. I could stop, and what it felt like is I could stop and not only physically catch up to the athlete that I am normally, but mentally heal and psychologically heal. And I think that's been the biggest thing out of this extended break is obviously physically, I've put on 7 kilos of muscle. I recognize myself in the mirror again. Which the day I did, after it was like over two and a bit years where I didn't recognize myself in the mirror, because it's not one bit looked like me. I was raised to be this kind of, you know, very muscle strong, very defined legs, very, you know, kind of athletic human being, to all of a sudden I was a bit of a shell. And yeah. So I feel like it's given me this weird conceptualizing space of what actually happened to me, and not only how it impacted me physically, but also mentally, emotionally, and
if you had to compare, you know, your physical and mental strength before the illness to now, as in, you know, on the eve of championship tour competition returning here, how would you compare it? As strong, you know, 90%, you know, stronger? I'm curious.
yeah, I'd probably say I am healthier. I've probably had, you know, leaving the sport in the way I did, I didn't really get a choice in it, but leaving it and then coming back, there's been a lot more choice in that, and a lot more understanding on why I'm coming back, and just the different kind of spaces that I probably get to choose to put myself in now. But in an overall sense, like, yeah, I feel like my health and well-being is now my priority, in even as I do what I do. And I don't think I've ever had that in my career before. And yeah, I think one of the big things is, you know, there's a difference between like surviving kind of every day like I did for 2 years, and really kind of healing from that, and then living and being able to not be in such a state, physically and mentally, where the PTSD, and it's not every day I have it now, which I feel extremely lucky for. There's obviously memories, but yeah, I feel like I'm okay with them.
Well, that was maybe one of the most special rear views presented by BF Goodrich Tires we've ever had. We're going to get one more ad break in from our sponsors, and then we'll wrap up.
Do you like that? Well, if so, subscribe over there and then watch more videos over there. And then tell us your favorite videos down there. It's a 3-step process. Do them all now.